Hello, hello, hello. It's your girl, Sean LeRae, and welcome back to Boss Talk, y'all. You know, it's Wednesday, it's Wellness Wednesday, and we are live at Boss Talk LA. Hello, hello, hello. It's your girl, Sean LeRae, and it's Wellness Wednesday. It's my, so I am happy to be here with you for the moment. Today. So tell somebody, send that link out. Tell them, like, comment, subscribe, Boss Talk. And hello. I am so happy to be here Wednesday with y'all. Y'all know it's hump day. And so y'all know here at Boss Talk, we are living for the weekend. So go ahead and put in the chat what it is that you're going to do that's going to help you get to the weekend. And if you're here for the first time, go ahead and type that in the chat too, so we can welcome you properly. And where are you tuning in from? I want to know. Boss Talk wants to know. So, as always, I have an amazing show planned for you all today. And I always like to begin with Wellness Wednesday because Wednesday is my day off. I don't see clients on Wednesdays. It's an opportunity for me to practice self-care. And it's important that I practice self-care because I'm always preaching about self-care. And I'm always telling people to take care of themselves. And I also give tips on how to do that. And every now and then, I find that I have stepped off of my game on how I am taking care of myself. And sometimes, as one of my friends said earlier today in a conversation, that a group of Black women professors got together to have life be lifing and the universe be universing. And sometimes that can throw us off of our game. And I've had some challenging things happening in my business that have just made me need to take pause. And sometimes it's important for us to take pause because we can get so busy doing that we forget to be. And so when I stop and take a moment to do nothing and just be, it's like a reset. So I'm going to invite you all to reset with me today, this wonderful Wednesday afternoon. I am very excited. You all know that I meet people everywhere I go, and I go everywhere. So I love the ways that I meet people and the opportunities that I get to meet people. I love how the world is really small when you figure it out, like when you see that 6 degrees of separation is even smaller than that, you know. And the woman actually who is responsible for me meeting my guest tonight just popped in. So let's say hi. Hey, Miss Sydney. How you, Sydney Wayne? She said, amen, loving the reset. Absolutely. And you're somebody like I am who is on the move. You are a go girl. And so we have to be reminded that it's important to take care of ourselves. So, Miss Sydney Wayne is an amazing singer. She is a vocal coach extraordinaire. She is an actress. She is a writer. She's all those things. And so I went with my husband. I so love saying that. I went with my husband to see her perform a couple weeks ago at Olive and Fig. And so check your Facebook, check your Instagram, check their website, and find out the next time that Sydney Wayne and the Hot Papas are going to be at Olive and Fig, because you don't want to miss it. It's quite a show. Because with Sydney, it's not just her singing, it's a whole show, it's a whole thing. And as God and fate would have it, I ended up sitting next to this lovely woman and a gentleman. And we started talking because, like my mama said, I'll talk to a doorknob if the doorknob talks back. And I could immediately feel her spirit and knew that she was going to talk back to me. And so Sydney says she is back October 26th. All right, y'all. So those women of you out there who are going to be present at the Black Women's Network breakfast, let's do breakfast in the morning. Go home and take a nap and have dinner with Sydney Wayne out at Olive and Fig. It's Mediterranean food. You're going to love it. So, Sydney, I said it. You're going to love it. That's the title of one of her songs that she wrote. But you have to come to the show to hear the story behind it. So, as I was saying, I'm there and I can feel this woman's spirit, and we start chatting. And she's a beautiful light and a spirit that I can't wait to tell you more about and have you meet her. So I want to tell you a little bit about her before I bring her out here to meet y'all. So her name is Sherry. I say Pedigio, and she says it's Pedigo, but you know me. Sherry is a triple platinum songwriter and producer. She grew up in a small town in Kentucky, and at the early age of 8, she was singing and writing songs on piano. She's had success in many facets of the music business as a hit songwriter, the owner and operator of her own publishing company, and as a recording and performing artist herself. She has shared the stage with numerous artists of note and is a contributing author to the book Redeeming the Screens. As a filmmaker, her creative vision began when she wrote the song Father Me. Now, this is a major inspiration for the documentary, and it becomes the film's soundtrack as the audience moves through a journey of discovery and healing. So, Boss Talkers, without another word from me, please welcome to the stage, if you will, Sherry Pedigo.
Pedigo.
I'm going to get that right.
It's all good. I like Pedigio. I'll take it. It sounds a little bit more. It was just a little bit more.
Yes, it has a French sound to it.
Yeah, it's got a musical sound. That's right. It's got. It sounds like, yeah.
Welcome to Boss Talk.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been here in East Tennessee, we've had some crazy weather, as you know. I'm an hour and a half from all that devastation. Ooh. So it's been an interesting week.
Yes,
in more ways than one.
You safe and sound and with us today. I love that.
Thank you.
My husband says, "Yay!"
He's amazing. Your husband is so amazing.
Oh, thank you.
He just loves you. You can see it radiating.
Oh, and I love him too. He's a sweetie. It's very funny because at our wedding, his best man was speaking about him, for the toast, and he got choked up, and it was difficult for him to finish, and so he wanted to come on the show and talk about him. And it's amazing for me to hear other people sing his praises. And each time I talk to his friends, I learn something new about him that is just beautiful and amazing. And so thank you for noting that and saying that.
Well, there was a show going on, and the whole time the show was going on, he was filming you and not the show. I was like, he ain't paying attention to the show. The wife is the show. Hey, that's the way it should be. That's what a good family looks like,
That's what I'm talking about, Sherry. I love it.
That's what love looks like.
Yes, and it feels really good. It feels really good. So Sid says, "Hey Sherry, looking good. Glad that
Thank
you
you,
are safe
sweetheart.
and sound." Yes, indeed, indeed. So Sherry, I met you as we sang backup for Sid at the show.
It was a lot of
It was
fun.
so fun.
Yeah, and I
That
was
was
very impressed with what you do, and that just and our conversation, it was just a God thing that I was even there, to be at that show. I was supposed to be somewhere else that evening, and when Larry called, I canceled my other plans and went. And I'm so glad I did, because God ordains our steps if we let him. Sometimes we don't, we plan our way, but he directs our steps. So,
absolutely, absolutely. And if you want to see him go to work, make a plan. And
oh, tell me
he'll
about it.
he'll
Yeah,
not turn around, won't he? But it's always for our good. So that's the beauty in it all. Yes. And so he meant for us to meet that night.
that's right. I think
Yes.
I spoke to you more than I did Larry. Anyway,
It's
yeah.
okay.
So thank you
Well,
for
you know,
having me on the show. So
absolutely. So the more that we chatted, I got to learn more and more about what you do, and there's so much that you do outside of singing and traveling around to do that, which was very impressive to me. That you do get to travel and sing and those kinds of things, but there's so much more. And I love when someone takes their God-given talents and then use them in a way that is outwardly focused. And that's what I
exactly.
noted about you and what you have done
Yeah.
uh, with your film.
I say it's purpose driven. For so many years I was trying to be that star. I had 3 record deals, and I was signed in Nashville. Then I went to LA, and but that was going to make me the next Melissa Etheridge. And I had some of the biggest producers and 3 labels fighting over me in the rock world. And it wasn't meant for me to do those things. I remember telling my mom when they produced the one song on me, I said, Mom, I don't feel comfortable with this. How am I going to sing in concerts those ranges that they're creating? And the production changed my little innocent, because I wrote my songs just me and the guitar, and they took it from just me and the guitar to this massive, huge rock production. and and
Mm,
and I was going, and but the experience was powerful, and to
yeah.
be able to be in those places. But every time I was ever around anybody doing anything, I had, as 12-year-old child coming to know the Lord, I always took that wherever I went, no matter what conditions was in my life. And
Mhm.
and I don't necessarily, even though I was striving to be the star, you live and you learn. I think my life now is so much more of a purpose driven
Mhm.
life,
Yeah. And
and
the light that you are is a star. We often forget that stars are light.
mm,
And so sometimes we have to look and see what else God is meaning. So you
yeah.
are the star, just not the star that you thought that you would be. And
Oh,
your
and the disappointments that you
lightness.
have when
Oh
things
yeah.
don't go. They're right there at the door. Then all of a sudden the bottom drops out, and you go, "How did that happen?"
Mhm.
But yeah,
So
yeah.
how did you stay grounded and stay in wellness when that was happening? When
Oh,
things were not going the way that you expected and when doors were closing, and people can be cruel, I know that, uh,
yeah.
in the business.
Well, luckily, I was always health conscious. Thankfully, I was not a person that ever got into any substance abuse, thankfully, but I know people that did, a lot of people around me that had. Um,
Ah, we were talking earlier and we were having some problems because just Sherry mentioned she's out there where all that disaster was taking place and they're still trying to get the lines correct and all the connections correct. So we may have time to time um, when we need to pivot a little bit because we lose her. There she is. She's
I'm
back.
sorry. We had horrible storms here. I'm so sorry this happens. But
No
you know,
worries. I've warned them, so they're all good now.
yeah, but I had a praying mom. I know how to pick up, thank God.
Yes,
Pick up
ma'am.
where I
I love
left
that.
off.
That's the
I,
business in you.
yeah, my mom, she really was. I have to say, my mom's prayers probably saved my life because, you know,
Mm.
you're going through all that as a when you're young. You know, you're just you have to live a while to figure things out.
Yes, indeed. Come on.
Some take longer than others. Mine unfortunately took a little longer than others. You know, but even in LA, I had it's like mentors. You know, I had
Mm.
incredible mentors in my life that showed up, like Diane Cannon, a major mentor in my life. A lot of times I didn't want to hear what she wanted to say, but she saved me from a lot of bad situations. I'll tell you
Mm.
that.
Mm.
Bad relationships, bad choices. You know,
Yes.
because I was choosing guys that were like that were you come from fatherless homes. I didn't realize that till later that was kept doing it, had a pattern
Mhm.
going on.
See, but I love that you experienced that attraction to the wrong guys. I was just
Oh
consulting with
yeah.
my therapist about um, a young lady that I'm seeing, and the one thing she said to me when I was telling her about it is, where's her daddy? Where was her daddy? And
Oh yeah.
and I laughed because that's our conversation tonight, because it does make such a difference. And
Mhm.
sometimes people try to ignore that, and it doesn't take anything away from us as women and mothers and the
Mhm.
mothering that we do. However, that presence of the male, it is important. It's God's design. And
Yes.
so when it's not there, it makes a hole in the system
Mhm.
and in the person. It
Yeah.
you know.
It does. I did an interview in my documentary with actor Oded Fair. Um, and Oded, you know, he said, you know, children, if they feel like their father doesn't love them, they feel like they could die. And that stuck me so hard in the heart because I had so much depression for so many years. And I was like, why do I feel depressed all the time? I've got great friends around me. I'm doing well. And but I always had this feeling of sadness in my heart,
Mhm.
and that really stemmed from my father, you know, and I didn't know that till later. It made sense, especially
Mhm.
after doing the interview with Oded. When he said that, I was like, oh my God, that's what it has been. You know, my dad, listen, he was a great provider, great provider. And I
Mhm.
knew my dad loved us, but my dad didn't know how to show it because he lost his father at a young age. So he didn't know how to
Mhm.
be loving and listen to you like a father would. You know, his way of communicating was through a car. So
Uh-huh.
that's why I drive a manual transmission.
I love
I grew up. My dad built race cars, so I grew up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with
Well, I
speed.
I used to help my daddy rebuild
Oh,
engines.
nice. Hey,
My first car was a Mach 1 Mustang, girl.
oh my God! I knew you were going to say Mustang. I could see you driving a Mustang.
Yeah, we'll have to
Mine
talk
was
about that later.
60, had a shift kit in it. I had a shift kit.
Oh, come on
16 year
now.
olds with a shift kit in the engine. Who does that?
Uh-uh.
Yeah,
I
my
love
dad
it.
put the shift kit in.
Well, when I was 16 is also when I got my first ticket for running a red light due to speeding. So I used to race it.
I know all about it.
So
Hey, we're lucky we're still
we're
here.
still here. Exactly. Let's see what the folks are saying. My husband says, pleasure to meet you, Sherry. And my wife is always finding good friends and meeting great people like yourself. Yes, indeed. Indeed.
Thank
And he
you.
also said, oh, this is interesting. We got to get through this bad weather through great interview. Oh, yes, we have to get through it. We will, baby. So tell me, so your dad was in the home,
Oh,
yet
yes. Oh,
right?
absolutely. My dad
Because
was in the home. We went places and did things together. Um, it's just my dad can never like, you know, put his arm around you. Hey, I love you. You're having a good day. You know, tell me about your day. There was none of that going on.
mm-hmm,
Um, it was just, there was, I, I don't know how to explain it more than to say that, you know, my dad missed my graduation. He missed everything that was important in my life.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I was always trying to spend time with my dad. Like I'd get off the school bus and I would run to the shop and dad, you know, open up the Coke machine and get me a Dr. Pepper, anything I could just to be with him. I would go down and spend time with him in the shop when he was working on the cars. And he would fuss at me a lot. Like I remember
Mhm.
I wrecked the go-kart because I was being stupid, going down the hill and took my feet off the brake and wrecked the go-kart. Well, the go-kart was more important than I was. I could have really hurt myself really bad, but my dad was more concerned about the golf cart, those kind of
Uh-huh.
things, those kind of things,
Right, right.
that
And I
make
think
you
that's
feel
important to
like,
point out.
when you're
Go ahead.
constantly being ridiculed and not really being encouraged, it has an impact on you,
Absolutely.
your
Absolutely. And
confidence and
I think,
everything.
yes, and I think it's important to recognize that presence and absence are not always the same. They don't always have the same meaning because your
No, they
father was
don't.
present in body, but not in mind and spirit and connection. And so that is just as devastating as a father who isn't there at all, because you
Yes, it
feel the
is.
same type of results from
Yeah.
that. And it's interesting because in America right now there are 19.4 million fatherless homes where they're growing up, kids are growing up with a single mother, where fathers are not present in these children's lives. That's 1 in every 4. So if you think about that and do the math on that, that's a lot of missing dads. And so if you look at that, Cherry was there with her dad, but didn't feel his closeness and his connection and that. So imagine also those children whose dads were just not in the home at all, not connected,
Mhm.
promises that they have made and all of that. You've seen all of the, you know, films and movies with that very thing happening.
Yeah, you
And
do.
it's true statistically, but it's also true in real life, like the things that people experience. And a lot of times we don't want to look at that. We don't want to look at that as a root cause. And then even that, the fatherlessness is also attached to the rising divorce rate. People are not, that dream of the 2.4 kids and the cars and the picket fence, that's dwindling more and more and more. And so, we're in a quandary here with
Yeah.
this. So
It's
tell me
very
what
true.
inspired you to do the documentary film.
Whew. Boy, I dated a guy in country music. He was a famous country music singer. And I tried to change him. And it backfired, I guess you could say. And no matter what I did unconditionally, I mean, there was major unconditional love going on. And I thought, well, if I just show him unconditional love, he'll trust somebody. He didn't trust nobody. And to this day, I don't know if he does. I don't know. I haven't talked to him since Father's Day 2015. And then I wrote a screenplay about my journey with him. And anyway, I won't go down that road. I'm just go straight to the documentary. I ended up The documentary healed my life. The screenplay was kind of more of like I wanted him to see the film so he would like wake up. It was more like I did it because I wanted to get it out for him to see it, but
Right. So
that
you weren't
was
in your
the number.
healing yet.
Yeah, but the documentary healed me. So, that's the thing that was.
How do you think that it served as a healer for you?
All the interviews I did with the people that I interviewed, I was like shocked. I think I thought I was, sometimes you think you're the only one that's got these things that are going on that you don't quite understand. And I
Mhm.
think when I interviewed Harmony Samuels as well, Harmony, he hated his father, and his father abused him, mostly verbally. And they came from a Nigerian background but grew up in England. He was a record producer, and he had all this success, but yet he was unhappy. And he said, I kept just wanting more and more success, but the success wasn't filling his hole in his heart.
Right.
And one day God got a hold of him. And I mean, I was there when it happened, actually, in a church in LA when it happened. It was on Father's Day. I will never forget this guy screaming. I didn't know it was him because I didn't know him at the time. And the message was so powerful that he literally was screaming, like getting set free of this anger that he had, because it was on the message was on forgiveness, so um fast forward, I interviewed him, and he said when he finally called his father, he didn't ask his father. um he got his father on the phone, and he told his father, he said, I just need to say this to you, and I need you to listen. Will you forgive me for hating you all these years? Instead of, Dad, I'm waiting for you to say I'm, he flipped the script.
I
And
love
his
that.
father broke down and cried and said, I thought you'd never forgive me for what I did to you. And he said they've been building ever since. And that, I
Mhm.
remember when I did that interview at his studio in North Hollywood, my makeup artist, she was like, I didn't realize I was holding on to this stuff till he said that. Then I realized I got to call my dad. So it
Wow.
was, and with me, I did the same thing. I wrote my dad a letter. I didn't say it face to face. I said, Dad, thank you for providing for us as kids. And I said, even though you missed my graduation, it was very important to me that you were there, that you weren't there. I forgive you because I understand, why you did that and why you weren't there. You were providing for us. I just kind of took it to that place instead of, I was
Mhm.
always like coming down on my dad. Why weren't you doing? I was kind of ugly a lot, angry at him, and I'd have bursts.
Mm. All right. Y'all just bear with us. You know what it's like when this weather is acting up. And I think Verizon had a whole full on uh, outage this week as well. So, how many of you out there have felt the need to find your own healing uh, and haven't yet done it?
Okay,
Cheryl, you
there we
just
are.
asked, uh,
Oh my.
what do you all think? There you go.
I'm back.
All
I'm
right.
back
Well,
in the
I had
saddle. I
missed you in
guess.
your absence. Uh, uh-oh. I was asking you all if you could just put that in the chat. Is there anyone out there who has not yet found your healing, or who knows that you need to seek some form of healing from your father wounds, whether it was an absent father, not there at all, excuse me, or a father who was there but not present in your life? I have a tickle.
Now
There
I
we
have my glasses on.
And that's all right. Here, I'll
I
put
thought
mine
I'd
on.
be cool because she's so cool. I'm trying to log
I'll
into
put mine on too.
computer. So I may, hey, I'm glad we're real people.
Hey, absolutely. It's okay. Technology is not our friend. And like I always say, technology is great until it isn't. So here
I
we
was
are.
trying to come in through my computer, but I'm not sure that that's going to work either, but I was going to try to do it. So,
Well, no worries. You're here now.
okay.
So I was asking out there if there was anybody who recognizes that they are not in their healing yet, that they recognize that maybe they need to walk in their healing and walk into the process, because it is a process. It's not something that just you look up and there it is, right?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about, you touched on it a little bit about the guys that you were choosing, like how not having a father in our lives can sometimes color the way that we uh show up in relationships.
Oh, most definitely. And until you get healed, you'll continue this process your entire life. I definitely can tell
Mhm.
you that for a fact, because I know people that are continuing it, and I'm going, oh my God, I see it. I could have never seen this before. You know, I had to go through my own process of, man, it took me forever. But I did have a pattern of choosing these same guys and trying to fix every one of them. I realized, wow, I tried to fix him. I tried to fix him. I tried to fix him. And here I was, just giving and giving and giving, and just wearing myself out with this craziness. And I had great guys that wanted to go out with me, but I didn't go out with them. I went out with the ones that were absolute musicians, crazies, and good looking guys that all had father issues. And that's just the only way I know how to put it. And it was ridiculous. But you know
Exactly.
what? I can see them coming a mile away now.
Father issues attract father issues, and that's
They
interesting.
do.
Yeah, Sydney says, my father was wonderful, but I'm still healing from relationships with men who were abusive towards me. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. Well, the beautiful thing is the recognition of it and beginning the journey,
yep.
beginning the healing journey. Sid, that is the most important piece, because a lot
Yeah.
of, I work with a lot of women who still can't see it. And to go Dr. Phil, look, I'm gonna go a little Dr. Phil on y'all. You can't fix what you don't acknowledge. Because that was his line.
It's
But
so
it's
true.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that, it's because we're all we want is what we feel we're missing. So we're like, I crave the love, I crave the connection. You were craving the things that you didn't get from the one man that you had in your life in the very beginning. And
Yeah.
that's it. I know that, I grew up with my dad. He was amazing. I loved him. I thought he hung the moon, and then as I got a little older, I realized and noted that he was very imperfect. And it took some time to connect with that. My mind could not connect with that, and so I
Hmm.
chose not to. So for a long time, I was in denial of that piece that needed the healing. And I was mad at my mother.
Hmm.
I was mad at my mother when she didn't just up and jump and follow my dad, and she knew a whole lot of things I didn't know. And then I read her journal.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, but it took me a long time to confront my own hurt and anger in my heart.
Hmm.
And when I started to do my work, I realized he's imperfect, but he was an amazing dad to you. And you have so much to be grateful for that you got from him, because he was fully present. He was well connected with me. He was fun. He was a
Hmm.
disciplinarian. He wasn't playing. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
um, recognizing that he shaped all of this along with my mom, and I can be grateful for who I am, and I can separate and forgive these human frailties. And so even us daddy's girls go through um, a need to heal. Let's see what Dr. Daphne said. Hello, my love. She says, my dad died an honorable death, but the abandonment issue was still a real issue growing up. I believe that the hurt of not knowing and bonding him is real. Bonding with him is real. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Dr. Daphne, like I said with Sydney, knowing is the key. Understanding it, because then you know that there's a direction that you need to go, even if you don't know what that direction looks like, what that journey is going to look like. Knowing that you need to put your boots on and take a trip down that lane is part of the beginning of the process, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. A lot of these kids that grow up in these homes and they join these gangs, the gang becomes the father.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we can't really, I mean, crime is crime and shooting somebody else is a horrible thing. But these kids are doing what they feel that they're a part of something, and it
Mm-hmm.
makes them feel like they have a purpose. And that's a
Yes.
horrible
And
purpose to have.
yeah.
I have a lot of compassion for those kids because, we don't know what they've seen, what they've gone through. And I just have a lot of compassion for kids that end up incarcerated and joining gangs and getting
Oh
in the
yeah.
wrong. I do.
Yeah.
And
Right. Go ahead.
I just think there needs to be a whole lot more programs to help them. And that was one of the things I was documentary could go into, and it has been shown in some facilities, with teenagers, and not just
Mhm.
teenagers. I mean, you know, all ages really
Yeah.
incarcerated.
Yeah. Well, I have seen firsthand what they have gone through,
I
and
know you have.
so horrific you could not begin to believe it. I coming from, suburbs of Toledo, Ohio, even though I lived in New York and I had a taste of working with kids from Harlem and that sort of thing, it is a whole nother level when you go and you learn about the mind and the psyche and the connecting and all of that, and then you see it.
Hmm.
And some of the things that these children have gone through, I have the highest level of respect for so many of them, especially the ones that make it out, and a lot of compassion like you for those that do not.
Yeah.
you know
Hmm.
and I think it's important that we more people recognize what you've recognized, that what they need is compassion, not necessarily
Hmm.
um, even separation, if not incarceration. But when you put these children in some of these facilities that have no rehabilitative purposes and things like that, then what you're doing is you're creating a more hardened criminal.
Yeah. My documentary is I didn't know what educational distribution was because I had been going to pitch my documentary to, to different networks and had a lot of them interested, but the topic was it's a healing topic. My documentary is very healing, but I went with educational distribution right now because it goes into social issues and the professors. I did a 3-year licensing with an agency just recently, and I just feel like my documentary is going to have so much more of an impact in educational distribution as opposed to just being shown on Netflix for half an hour. Then, you know,
Mhm.
it's going into the school systems, where the students can see it, and the people that are studying social issues. Hey, if it helps a few people along the way, it's a worldwide, by the way, worldwide distribution.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I just decided that's the best route for me. And at this point, it's just, hey, it's we're in a time in our lives where if we're not creating content that's going to change and transform lives, what are we creating?
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
where it's the world is in our youth are so mixed up right now, and
Mm,
they're the future. They're our
yeah.
future.
And
And
they're, it's crazy because it's like they're hungry for help. But they don't know how to
yeah,
ask for it, and not enough people know how to freely give it. And so I think it's really hard to watch. It's hard to watch not understanding what the answer is. But I'm glad that there are people like you doing what you're doing, that spreading the awareness from an insider perspective, because that's also important.
yeah,
Uh,
it's really interesting because I mean, to think all those years I was seeking this fame and fortune, which, yeah, I was talented. Yeah, of course, talented, really talented. But what would have self-destructed if I'd really made it? Like so many self-destruct because I wasn't healed, in my
mhm,
life. I mean, yeah, all that attention's great, but who knows where I would have ended up,
right?
who I would have ended up with. And
Yeah.
so this was a path that I didn't foresee coming at all.
Well, that's
And
how it operates, girl. You know it.
but it's a rewarding path in so many ways. Yeah, I'm not rich, I'm not on the billboards, and but hey, I'm rich in so many ways, in my heart, my soul, in my
Yes.
life. I have peace. I go to bed at peace. I'm provided for. I don't have to worry about nothing. I'm very
Mhm.
blessed in my life, and I
And you still
I
get
don't
to
have any
do
drama. I
what you
have
love.
no zero drama.
I know that all alone is a blessing. And you get to do what you do. You get to what you love. You get to go sing and
I do. I love what I do. I sing with this Elton John tribute band, and matter of fact, Kenny, he would not mind me saying this. He actually had a father that he didn't have a good relationship with, but he's become such an amazing father himself. And I here's his cup. I'm drinking out of it. You don't see me,
oh, I love it.
but it's Elton. Elton. He does the early years of Elton John. He's the number one tribute band in the country. We have amazing shows we do,
Oh, I
And
love
it's so
that.
fun for me to be on that stage with him. And I
I
love
love
Elton's music, you know.
Oh, yeah. Um, when I was in high school, we did, let's see. Oh my gosh. I can't light no more of your darkness. All the pages black and white. It's coming to me. Oh gosh, why can't I think of this song? It was when we did one of our camp routines to it, a cheerleading camp, to an Elton John song, and I cannot think of it. I cannot think of it. And then we had a we had a kid in my school who would dress like Elton John for Halloween every year for like for 4 years in
Yeah.
a row. Every year.
Well, Elton had an upbringing of a bad father too. You know, his father,
Mhm.
if you saw the movie, you know, Rocket Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, so many musicians had really, you know, not so great fathers,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
It's interesting that then the music became their solace and their savior in a way that saved them from some of the other things that may have been a problem. And then we have those that don't do so well, that get connected to
yeah.
the drugs and the,
Well,
you know,
Elton went through his whole thing with
yeah,
alcohol and drugs, and it was pretty
mhm,
bad.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Let's see what they're saying out there. Mr. Seal says, man, there's a lot of pain out there. You can never judge a book by its cover because the pages may be more interesting. Absolutely. He says, I don't recognize it, but I probably have some issues because my daddy did not support me when it came to sports or anything that inspired that I aspired to become. And Dr. Daphne says, I believe the gang issue is much deeper than not just having a father around. There are so many kids that don't have dads that are not in gangs. I believe there are factors of safety, honor, and respect that they don't get from society. Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. There are, you know, that is one of the things, but you're absolutely right. I think not being affirmed, not being yeah, affirmed and uplifted and
mm-hmm.
uh
The word,
being seen as a threat from the time you're a little bitty boy and all of those kinds of things are part of what, you know, society does to disrupt uh their childhood in that way, which is, you know, one of the programs that I'd like to have in the William Joseph Brinkley Center for Cultural Affirmation. Is part of that is to affirm uh, children of color, that because they don't get it often from society and from the world. And so, you know, I was very blessed to have parents that affirmed me in
that's good.
all of my quirky craziness, you know, and in every piece and every way that I was. And I am so grateful for that. So one of the things that I want to do, especially with seeing from the perspective that I get to see children from and meeting their parents who are wounded themselves and are trying to raise these children, is to be able to just affirm people, the adults who are out there in the world who were not affirmed as children and now you know are in the adult space still operating as unseen and unaffirmed. I love it. I love it. Were you gonna say something, Sherry?
I was agreeing with you. I love the word affirm because affirmation's everything, you know.
Mm,
And yeah, I agree. I love that
absolutely.
word, and it's so true, you know.
Mm.
Yeah,
Now I
because
know that.
ridicule is so damaging when you're
Mm,
ridiculing somebody and condescending, and you know, even the
oh
Bible
yeah,
tells us to lift one another up with words of encouragement, you know, and to edify one another. And words are
yes,
powerful. Our words
yeah,
hold power. We have to be
yes.
careful with our words. We got to
Mm-hmm.
bless our
The
kids.
scripture, the power of life and death is in the tongue.
Yes. Yes, it
Yes.
is.
Yes, that is insane. I love that. Thank you. What did Rhonda? Hey, Sora Rhonda. What's going on, girl? She said, hi, great topic. I personally did not experience this. I know many young ladies who have, and there are long-term effects of not having a father. It does manifest in various ways, especially emotional. Absolutely, 100%. Mr. Seal says, I was a baseball player and basketball player and played a little tennis, karate, football. And my dad came to one basketball game, and that was my best game ever. Shout out to my pops. Yes. Well, the now that's interesting because, honey, you were asleep when I was watching this movie last night. But baseball player Ricky Hill, is anybody familiar with the story of um it's called the Hill or something. Yeah, it's called The Hill. It's a movie, it's Netflix, but it's about this young man who had a degenerative spine disease and could not walk without braces and could hit the ball out of the park, and he was hitting a rock with a stick and
Oh,
could
wow.
precisely hit it, and he knocked it over some trees and busted a man's windshield. And
Oh,
his brother and his little sister wanted to run, and he was like, nope, we got to do what daddy said, because daddy was a preacher. And so they went over and confronted the man and told him, and the man was more interested in, did you hit that? He said, with those things on, and he pointed to his braces, and he said yes. And he was like, wow, go do it again. And so he sent him back. He hit the rock again with a stick, and it broke his windshield in another place.
oh,
But this man later became an instrumental part of his cheering squad because his dad kept looking at him as as a cripple, and in
wow.
such a way that he became mean and cruel about it. In his sort of desire to protect him, he was holding him back. And Ricky made it to the major leagues, and he played
Wow.
4 years in the major leagues, and then his spine gave out. But his goal and dream from the time he was a little kid was to make it into the major leagues. And so his father meant well, right? But as a preacher, he was also so rooted in the word that he couldn't see the forest for the trees, if you will, because
His
sometimes we can
protection what
focus.
did more danger than it did good.
Yes, absolutely. And
Mm.
so, there are people that have that as an experience too. Often parents do what they know to do, and sometimes it's
Yeah,
not the best thing or the right thing,
that's
but
true.
it still wounds us. Intention is like, I didn't mean to cut you, but I'm bleeding. So, you know, so we have to see that, but it's also helpful to consider all of those things when we come to
You're right.
the healing places. They're just chatting away out here. Sydney says, wow, Sherry, I'm so happy for you and proud of you for finishing your documentary and finding a way to distribute it. Go, girl. Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yes, Connie. Hey, Soror. She says music became a beautiful escape and a road to healing for some musicians. Absolutely. And Connie is my soror friend, former Boss Talk guest down in South Carolina. And we had the chance to speak today. Her son was actually on our show not some months ago. I guess it has been a while. Bubba Graham, and he is an amazing musician with some funky, fun kind of music that you just got to check out. And I think I forget, I think his Spotify is Bubba Graham, and something amazing is happening in his life, and I'm excited to hear about it. So I'll be telling y'all about that in times to come, and maybe we'll have him back on to tell us what's going on, because it's exciting from what I hear. So Sherry, I know that I have two things that I want to ask you, because we're getting closer to the end. I want you to talk about how your faith played a role in your healing, in that you didn't feel the connection to your physical father, but at a young age, you found the connection to your heavenly father. And often, y'all, we we miss that nugget that is the piece that can help us in the healing, because many times the wound of a physical father can be so deep that it can send us on paths that we don't want to go on. But connecting to our Heavenly Father and allowing ourselves to lean into the love that He has for us, that is unconditional, and perhaps your own physical father could not find it in himself to be unconditional with you. Or maybe your father had some abuse issues. Maybe he was abused. So I think part of the healing, though, has to be looking inward. And a lot of times we seek the healing looking out, like, what did they do? What did they do to me? But I think we have to look inside and see how what they did is impacting us. And if it's not serving us, then it is in our best interest to work through it and let it go and find our way back to the healing. Hey, Brother Allen, he says healing is a major issue in today's world, because after COVID-19, the pressure of social media and coming out homes with two functioning parents. Absolutely. Amen. 100%. 100%. Excellent movie, The Power of Prayer. Oh, okay. Where will we find that, Soror? I'd love to know where that one is. Let's see. Dr. Daphne, negative criticism and lack of affirmation is such a detriment to our lives. I was considering this very topic after watching the outcome of the Menendez brothers' lives. Girl, let me just tell you, honey child, I just finished that this week, and I had never watched that show. And I will say that you are absolutely right. That now, if somebody needs to see how negative affirmation and negative criticism, as you said, and lack of affirmation can turn someone in a direction that they cannot come back from, in the way that it would be in watching that and seeing the way that those young men, where it took them. Because I think that there are questions about what is and is not true in that story in terms of the molestation and that part of the abuse, and I suppose we'll never really know. But I do know that there was much truth in that, in the way that the father and the mother both treated them. And they both were unhealed themselves. As if you watched that documentary, you got to see that they were unhealed. And unhealing leads to unhealing. So it is really something. Hey there, she's back.
I'm back. Oh, well, at least I'm here.
Yes, indeed. And we're happy about that. So listen, I was wanting to know, and we'll have to make these quick answers, and I hate that, but please talk about how, knowing your Heavenly Father, and you said you came to your faith at 12 years old, but as it blossomed, as you grew and started to learn more and connect more, how did that help you on the healing journey? And how can you use that? I guess I'm going to morph this question, because my next question is, what nuggets do you want to leave the boss talkers with? So if you can just incorporate that into it in about 2 to 3 minutes. Not
Well, my faith is everything to me. And I wrote the song for my soundtrack. It's called Father Me. And that song came as a download. When I say a download, I mean a download, because I was in the process of writing the song and I got stuck on the bridge. And if you're a songwriter out there, you know what I'm talking about when I say the bridge. And I couldn't come up with a bridge. And I had a flat tire in my car. A flat tire. It was a drill bit that was in my rental car in Nashville. I was living in LA at the time. I was visiting Nashville, and I was working on the script with a guy that was doing all my final cut. He was doing everything. And anyway, so I had a drill bit in the tire, and I was starting to get really angry. This is my third rental car I had to return. And I thought, it's a week. I've got my third rental car. Well, it was like I had a Holy Spirit arrest. It's like God said, lay back. I want to speak to you. I mean, I was getting angry and in the flesh. And then I was like, I got quiet. The verse came to me, Father to the fatherless. I finally understand. You took the nail out of my heart and you placed it in your hands, the ultimate forgiveness. I can't write lyrics like that.
Wow.
Those lyrics came to me like an audible voice, and I can still see myself in Brentwood, Tennessee, laying down Holly Tree Gap Road, laying down on the floor like I got zapped. It was either stay in the flesh and be angry or listen and get in the spirit. You know, we have a choice to make. We have a choice. The Bible says the fruit of the spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness. The fruit of the flesh, we see it all the time because most people operate in the flesh when they get angry. We all do. It's about dying to the flesh. And I had to die to the flesh, and I had to humble myself and tell my dad, just like Harmony humbled himself. And he called his father and he asked his father, will you forgive me? I am sorry for hating you for 6 years. Instead of like, you. It's like, no, me. I got to take a look at myself. And I could have never done that without the help of my Savior, Jesus Christ, because ultimate forgiveness. He provided the ultimate forgiveness on the cross at Calvary. Either you believe it or you don't. I choose to believe that. And that has been my foundation. It's walked me through everything I've gone through in my life. And every time I step off to the left and I forget, I had to be brought real back in by people like Diane Cannon, who's been a major force in my life, by my praying mom, who's been a constant voice in the background of my life. And, you know, there's times you just didn't want to hear it, especially when you're walking in your sin. You don't want to, when you're walking in anger, you're walking in sin, and you don't want to hear to forgive that person that just offended you. Absolutely. It's all about forgiveness. That's all I can tell you. It's about forgiveness, period.
Wow. I love that. Well, y'all, you heard it from Sherry Pedigo right here tonight. And Sherry's documentary is called Father Me. And I think we have a link for it. Yes, it's right there. So her website's there, her Instagram is there, her Facebook and her LinkedIn are there. Connect with this woman. This film is ready. It's going to be for educational distribution. So if you know places that it can be shown, then please connect with Sherry and keep that conversation going.
Yes, because I do speaking engagements, and I have spoke at many different various home groups. I've spoke at conventions. I just wherever somebody has an opening for that topic to be discussed. I've not walked into the school systems yet. The Long Beach school has asked me to. It's just finding the time to get in there, my schedule, their schedule, and I will be going to speak to the youth and their curriculum regarding this subject. And but so I have been invited to speak, and I've done several interviews about it. But you know, the most important thing is to get the subject out there to help people. And you know, I do sing and I play the guitar, and I sing the song when I do speak, which kind of helps. It touches people. The song in itself tells a story, and it's the soundtrack to everything that this documentary represents. I don't know who just came in. Was that Sydney singing?
Theme song is trying to play real quick. Well, it's okay, we'll have to hold up. Thank you so much. I just wanted to shout out my soror Terry, and forgiveness is not for you, it's for me. And she says that you said it's all about forgiveness. And there were a couple of more comments I wanted to shout out to Gwendolyn. Hey, sis. I suppose we're talking right after this. Where'd it go? There it is. Thank you for a great discussion, ladies. So, and Rhonda was talking about the movie The Hill. Yes. All right. Thank you. So if you want to connect with me, well, there's Sherry's info. If you want to connect with Sherry, do so right there at all those places. And again, let's get the word out about this film. If you want to connect with me, Living Love Coaching.
I think we went over our time.